processed it, never dealt with it. He couldn't, he just like, it didn't fit in his way of thinking that his mother could give him up. So he was devastated his whole life. So in the workshop they said, well, why don't you talk to her? So he talked to her. He said, you know, giving you up was the most difficult thing of my life, but I was a drug addict. And it was the wrong thing to keep you. And it broke me apart, it tore me apart. So, you know, he's just like breaking down now, because his story just changed. His story was this mother, was a horrible mother. And now he finds out actually she was a wonderful mother, and it was an extreme sacrifice for her. Story changes, everything changes, the whole experience. So, I'll tell you another story. There was a lion. He was raised by sheep. He was an abandoned cub. And they didn't really notice the difference when they were young, but when he got old, they noticed the difference. So he was like their brother. He just did everything with them. He's part of the family. Slept with them, ate with them, played with them. And one day, they say, his name was Kashi. He said, Kashi's weird. He's an oddball in the family, and he's an embarrassment. And he's going to give us a bad reputation. And we don't want to be seen with him. So he said, Kashi, you're weird. Something's wrong with you. You're a mutant. And you're destroying the reputation of our family. And you have to go. So now Kashi is depressed. He's in the forest, he's living, and he's depressed. Because he's now come to understand he's a mutant sheep. And he's like really ugly. He's got this like huge head. It's a different color, you know. And so, some saintly person was walking through the forest that knew Kashi. He used to walk through the forest daily. And he saw Kashi depressed, and he was talking to him and said, what's wrong? He said, well, I was rejected by my family, my sheep family. They told me I'm a mutant sheep. Or a mutant. And I was just like, you know, what's going to become of my life? How was the story of the ugly duckling? It was an eagle. They said, you're not a big duckling. And he saw the other eagles, and he flew away. Oh, I'm an eagle. So, long story short, this saintly person convinces and explains to Kashi, you're not a sheep, you're a lion. So what do you think happens when he realizes he's a lion? Oh, I'm a lion, nothing's wrong. No depression. He's very happy to realize he's a lion. He's the king of the jungle. So it was just a story. So whatever happens to you, whatever you tell yourself happened is how you experience it and relate to it. Right? So the garbage truck principle is, oh, that guy's just having a bad day. And that's the story. So it doesn't bother you. Just wait to be nice to the guys having a bad day. Feel sorry for him. You know, but if we have another story. How could you treat me like that? You know, but don't you know who I am? You know, you get out of the car, you start yelling at him. You know, right? How dare you treat me like that? So core hurts are connected with our story. What happened? We were disloyal. We were dishonest. I trusted you. I want to tell you one more story. You'll like this, especially. I did a workshop, and I was partnered with a woman whose husband sold the house when they were getting divorced. He went, the house was sold, he took all the money from the bank and sell it and left her. And so she was instructed in the course to convince me, her partner, how hurt she was and how bad it was and how victimized she was by the situation. So she told me about this man, how bad he was, how he tricked her, he cheated her, took the money from the house, left her with nothing, didn't tell her, go on and on and on. So I was convinced, this guy's the bum. Actually, I knew who he was. He was a bit of a bum, so she didn't have to convince me much. And then the facilitator said, now I want you to convince your partner that it was totally your responsibility. And everybody's like, so then she has to explain how it was her responsibility. She says, well, I kind of should have known before we got married. You know, I kind of saw he was like that, and I really shouldn't have at the end, the last thing she said, I should have never married that one. It was my fault. It was my mistake. She just took total responsibility. So she had a different story. So it was no longer about blaming him. It was, she realized that was it was a misjudgment to marry that man. You see? New story, new experience. Yes, so.
Oh, did Kasha go back and eat his sheep family?
Oh, she was nice. He maybe ate the other sheep, but not those guys. He forgave them. So what you need to do now is, maybe you need to partner. If you need to partner up with your partner just to discuss this, try to isolate what your core hurt is based on understanding, was it betrayal, was it lack of acceptance, whatever it was that's causing your resentment. And then you can discuss with your partner what you might be able to do to deal with it, because if you don't deal with it, it's going to keep happening. And you won't be able to brush it off. It's just going to become a problem. Right? Yeah. With one person and another person. And trust issues. You know, I have this issue with trust, and then people betray me. I go into this resentment mode, or some mode of affliction. Whereas if I deal with that core hurt, then when it happens, I'm okay. So think about what the core hurt is, and then discuss or write or contemplate how you could heal that in some way, how you could better deal with it. Okay? Is that good? So we have our partners. They're all